What is up, guys? Welcome back to Bushy343, and as you can tell, we're doing a car review today. Not any car. This is my car that we've used on the channel in previous videos. If you're new to the channel, I highly suggest subscribing and checking out the other videos. I do more than just car reviews on here, but this is one of the things I wanted to do, and I'm going to do. So I figured, why not start out with the car that is featured on the channel the most. This is again a 2015 Fiat 500 Abarth edition. I bought this car just over a year ago, and it was probably one of the best purchases I've made because this car, brand new, starts around 25 to 27,000 depending on the spec. This is a lower spec Abarth model, I do believe, based on some of the options. And yeah, I got it for way less than half the cost of a brand new one with about, at the time, 38,000 miles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you around the outside of the car, show you some of the interesting things that I find attractive about this car. This car is not, of course, everybody's cup of tea. Give you some shots of the interior and go over some of the features this car comes with. I can also say that if you live in the Charlotte area or surrounding area within a half hour or so right now and you want me to do a review on your car, I would love to, because this is something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and I think it's finally time to do it, obviously, because we finally have some nice weather on my day off where it's not raining, it's not too windy, and we have perfect overcast, which I think is great for shooting cars, pictures, or videos. So yeah, again, bear with me as we go around this car. I cannot stress that enough because this is my first review. A little bit nervous compared to all the other videos I do. Now we start with the front of the car, and as you can see on the front, I think it looks very good. I think this is a very attractive little car, and little car indeed it is, but it's got some good features. It's got a lot of indications that it is not just any other Fiat 500 that you might see or might have seen. And of course, as you can see on the front end, we do have the Abarth logo with the scorpion. It does have a nice mesh grille. It has, of course, some ground effects packaging on it as well. And it's safe to say that this Abarth logo is everywhere on this car. You have the scorpion on each of the wheels. You can see the scorpion there, and of course it's donned with the Abarth graphics. Not all 500 Abarths will have this. Two-tone mirrors, as you can see. We have an Abarth logo right there with on the rear quarter, and again, like I said, it's on all the tires. And you come back to the back, there's another Abarth logo on the trunk lid, and of course the only thing that indicates this is a 500, if you don't know, is on the trunk itself, where your release is under. The back side, of course, is a nice aggressive styling compared to some of the base models. You got the dual exhaust, and I tell you what, this exhaust note is something else, which we'll go ahead and I will show you that right now. The exhaust note is probably one of the most nicest four cylinders, especially with a 1.4 liter, that I think you can get today. Also on the rear, you can see that we have these little side vents here. Now these are not functional that I know. There does feel like it does kind of come through there, so maybe it does let some air escape. Of course, you do have some vortices on the very lower bottom part of the 500. Of course, rear windshield wiper, and we'll go ahead and take this opportunity to look in the trunk. Again, simple, not a whole lot of room under here, as you can see. You could fit a couple good sized bags over here, overnight bags, but it does come with a 50-50 split. You just push a button and the rear seats will fold down. Obviously, if you'd have to move the passenger seat up, which we will do, you just pull on this tab here, or I should say strap, very neat little thing, and your rear seat will fold down. So with the rear seats folded all the way down, it does open up quite a bit of cargo. And I can tell you, I got just about a 5'5" or 5'6" box in this vehicle not too long ago. So it does have some utility, but not a whole lot. And of course the side profile there, very nice. I think it's a very nice present looking car, and has some very seriously nice angles. So now we'll move on to the interior. Now once you open it, you will dawned with, of course, the 500 logo on the door seal and two-tone red and black interior. You can see that you have a nice cavernous spot here in the door for storage, and you got, of course, Abarth embossed floor mats. And overall, I mean, this may look a little cramped, but there is quite a bit of room in here. Two people can fit in here very nicely. It's very spacious in my opinion. So yeah, with the space there, I will say that I am 5'8", so I never really had a problem fitting in any type of vehicle. With the doors open, you can see that there is plenty of room to get in and out of course, on the front. I'm 5'8", give or take, and I have plenty of room in this car. Never sat in the back, but we're gonna find out what it's like to get in the back. All right, so here we go, getting into the back now. Getting in is not too bad. The egress is actually pretty nice. I can put the seat back to where my normal seating position is. I don't know if you can see me here, but I do have actually a decent amount of space. You know, I have to keep my legs, of course, spread because they do touch the inside of the seat, but not to where I'm pushing on the seat to where the driver would be uncomfortable. There is. I have plenty of headroom. I have a good, I don't know, 2 inches, maybe more than that, headroom back in the back. So for short trips, you know, as long as you got a passenger that's probably under the 6 foot, they could probably fit back here okay-ish. I do not suggest Ubering this car, that's for sure. Now as we move on into the interior itself, you can see that we have a nice fixed steering wheel, very sporty, good grippage. Grippage, is that a word? But yeah, it's just a very nice wheel. And again, we have the Abarth logo there. You do have a turbo PSI tack there. Whether or not this is a true representation of the turbo PSI remains to be seen or known. It does work, and it seems to function like a real gauge would. On the steering controls, you do have your phone things over here, Bluetooth. On the other side, you have your cruise control settings. Your windows, some people might find, as I have found, are not on your door. You do have your mirror adjustments on that side, but your windows are actually on the center of the console where your shifter is as well. This is an automatic with, of course, a sport mode, and you can shift your own if you want. You also have your HVAC controls, your heating. You push this in for your AC, push it out, push it again for shutting it off. Of course, your recirculation and how you want your air to come out. Some of the other models are even newer, have a nicer little setup here. Up here again, as I said, you have your sport mode button. You have, of course, your hazards and your rear defrost. And up here is your basic radio, followed by your vents, which actually look pretty sleek. And of course, your only other 500 badge is on the dash. Of course, the interior panels, depending on the color of your Fiat, will come with the color on the inside as well. In the center of the bottom, you have, of course, a 12-volt DC power source, a USB connection, and an auxiliary, as well as 2 cup holders, your manual, which I think more cars need to incorporate still, e-brake, 2 armrests that go up and out of the way, and 2 more cup holders in the back. So in case, you know, somehow you fit more than 2 people that want to go to get something to drink, you have plenty of cup holder space. And of course, then we have the passenger side. The seats, of course, match, obviously, for obvious reasons. The back seats are not two-tone though. The back seats are just plain old black. Not much for the passenger to do over here than just sit and enjoy the ride and listen to the nice exhaust noises and the scenery that is on the outside of this car. But again, very spacious interior. Up top, of course, you have your lighting either side, both sides. That is kind of cool how the passenger, if they want to, can turn on the driver's side. And of course you do have some warnings over here that can be peeled off, but this owner has decided to keep them, along with 2 mirrors so you can look at yourself while you drive your Abarth. Now, before we take a look at the gauges, let's go ahead and pop the hood and see what is under there. Of course, it's easy to find out where your hood is because it is popped up right there in red, very easy to see. Once you raise the hood, you have to manually put up the hood prop itself with a nice little prop. And there you go. Again, there's another scorpion indicating this is no ordinary 500. And it's very, as you can see, compact. A very compact engine bay. So I mentioned this has the 1.4 liter turbo 4-cylinder. Again, there's a turbo. It delivers 160 horsepower, 170 foot-pounds of torque. But the way it delivers that is an interesting thing. Under normal conditions, in normal mode, you don't quite get the whole gobs of power, which I believe is just the torque. You have to put it in sport mode to get everything that this motor can offer, which I think is kind of neat because it helps with economy, obviously. So let's go ahead and hop inside this car. So this would be also a good time to show you that this car comes, of course, with 4 disc brakes. I believe they are 9 inches in the rear and almost 11 up front. So they have some beefy brakes. This has a good suspension and brake system. And of course this rides on 16-inch wheels. Tire size on this model is a 195/45 R16. You could probably fit a little bit thicker tire under here. So back into the interior of the car, I can show you the gauges. So on the inside you can see that your gauge setup is pretty cool. It's actually a, graphics setup. You have your, of course, eco index and fuel level on the right side. On the left side you have your tachometer. It kind of goes up vertically, as well as your engine temperature. In the center you can see your miles per hour, how cold it is outside, which is actually a very nice day out, what date it is, and the current time. And then of course you have your economy and your average speed, as well as your miles on the bottom. If you click on this right here, it'll change the screen. As you can see, it did. You also of course have your rear wiper and your wiper controls, a medium and a high. And if you pull it, of course you get your washer fluid and everything. And on this side is of course your lights and your brights and your directionals, which were an option on this car. It's also worth mentioning that you do have fog lights, and that control is right here. But back to the gauges, you can see you have trip distance. You also have your PSI, which I will say that I had this vehicle serviced at the dealership that I had bought it. So yeah, we are reading a little bit higher. I will probably let some of that out here. And again, this is a nifty little feature you have in the thing itself with your range and your miles per gallon is the Fiat itself. And it's really cool that they made it that it is the Abarth. You can see it has the ground effects with your dual exhaust. And of course then that is all it wrote there. You also have these little buttons here which change your menus up and down. You can see you have a speed buzzer, you have your trip B data, you can see your radio, which is on or off, which is kind of nifty. Open all, so you can only, so that is actually pretty nifty. I did not really check that out, but you can say you can either just open all the doors with your key or just the driver door. Auto close in motion is on. And of course you can go units, you can do tire pressure, temperature, distance, consumption. So that is a pretty neat little thing there. You get, of course, range, buzzer volume. You can turn up and down your buzzer volume as needed. Button volume, you can turn that down, as well as do you want your daylights on, which are not the headlights, but the lights just below the headlights, whether you want those on or off, and a hill start, which kind of comes in handy when you have a manual transmission. This will give the car a preventative rollback, basically, so when you're on a hill, you don't roll back. And to just exit out of that, you can either wait for it to go away after a few seconds, or you can just push your trip, and that brings it back up. Of course, I did say that this has a sport button, so when you hit the sport button, your gauges change. You now no longer have your economy. I'll change them back to show you. This economy thing will go up and down based on your economy. It'll get green as it gets up to 4 and 5, or if it stays here, it'll just stay in that little range. But when you put it in sport mode, it changes that to your gas percentage, how much gas you're using, 50%, 100%. Your tack becomes bigger, so you can get more focused on your RPMs in case you are driving hard, got a manual, or in this case, shifting this one manually. And of course, it indicates you are in sport by pushing that button. Turn it off, sport mode goes away. Turn it on, you are in sport, and you are getting all the powers of this car. And you can see you get a G meter instead of one other option, which is actually kind of cool. But you know, when you're enthusiastically running a car, you tend to want to kind of keep your eyes straight ahead and at what you're doing there, not at what G's you're pulling. But then, of course, you get all those other options. So that is the overview of the Fiat 500 Abarth 2015 model. And now there's only one thing left to do, and that is to drive it. Of course, I've driven this car obviously every day since I bought it and everything, so I have a good idea. But if you're new to the channel and you haven't seen me in the other videos, then you kind of want to know what my impressions are of driving this car. So that is what we are going to do right now. Okay, so we are inside the car, and yeah, we are going to take this on a small little cruise. We will start out, of course, in regular mode, which is no sport at all. So driving it, you notice that the wheel isn't super light, but it isn't super heavy in normal mode. The car is more apt to shift its gears itself. And of course, obviously, we have auto locking door features. And the exhaust note is nice. It's not overly loud. It does sound a little bit louder now because we are not obviously listening to any type of music, which is what I will go ahead and start with saying, that the audio in this car, not too bad at all. It is not bad audio. The stereo is decent. It's not the best. It's not something that you're gonna, like, you know, go off and show your friends and rock out to that way. Pickup in, you know, normal mode is good. It's not, this car is not going to win a lot of races stock form. There is a bunch of stuff you can do to the car to wake it up, but it's overall, it's not a bad car. It does 0 to 60 in probably, I'm gonna definitely say under 7 seconds, but you know, which is of course is, it's okay. Quarter mile, probably 16 to 16 free in the quarter mile, I'd say. So it's not particularly fast. It's quick. It's gonna get out of its own way, and you can pull out in traffic, you know, safely, and still get up to speed and not get run over, compared to, you know, the other models that, of course, do not come turboed. But I do believe Fiat has changed that. I believe all Fiats now do come with the Turbo 4, so I don't know. So there is that. But yeah, the steering, right amount of steering. But when you do enable sport mode, you know, the car will downshift itself. It goes into the next gear. It's going to hold that gear. It won't shift until about 3,000 RPM. And the steering gets a little bit heavier, which is what I like. I wish there was a way to set this up to where you could, perfect road test too, to where you could, you know, change some settings in it. You know, you could put it on, you know, normal mode, but, you know, maybe with higher shifts That's another thing, is around town in 35, you can see it's bumpy. It is very bumpy, but the ride isn't super jarring. It's not something that on a short distance trip is gonna really, I think, bother somebody looking to drive this kind of car. People who, I guess you would say, well, actually, let's go ahead. Oh, that exhaust. It's also worth noting that there is no mufflers on this car. This car does not come with mufflers, and I'm gonna go ahead and manually shift that to fifth because, like I said, it'll hang on to gears a lot longer. So if you're not doing over 50 miles an hour or so, it won't go into fifth. You'll be running at 3,000 RPM for a while. It can kind of drone on you, and of course, obviously, ruin your fuel economy. But as far as the ride goes, this is something that I think, if a person looking at this car, they kind of know what they're getting into. They're not expecting a super plush, ride. They're not expecting that at all. And this car obviously delivers on that. But it's not super harsh either. It's not. It is bumpy. It's gonna kind of knock you around a little bit, but it's not, like, I would say, uncomfortable. I've taken this on 2 trips of 12 plus hours one way, and it soaks up the miles really good. But I can tell you, after a while, it does kind of get to you. So in that regard, I would say you would probably want to maybe rent a car. If you have the means to drive another car on a long trip, you might want to go ahead and do that, is what my recommendation would be. But overall, this car, I mean, for a fun get around, drive around the city, even to take on the highway and do some highway bombing, it's a fun car. It sounds so good. One of the best sounding 4-cylinders that you can get from the factory. Kind of, I think, almost even better than when the SRT4s came out, the neon SRT4s. And yeah, it just feels so good, and it always puts a smile on my face. I always smile when I'm driving, and I think a lot of people would agree that this is a car that they just absolutely enjoy and love. And as far as reliability, I got 52,000 miles on it. I've had it for just over 14,000 miles. I've had no issues. The car hasn't let me down. No records indicate that this car has seen any other issues as well. So I think, in terms of reliability, I think you can look at it as, you treat your car well, it's going to treat you well. Any car these days can let you down, and this car hasn't let me down, and I don't think, it will anytime soon, or at least I hope not. Of course, some other things that, you could talk about is the AC. AC does blow good. On a really hot day, though, it sometimes has a hard time keeping up with itself starting out. But once you get driving this car, and once the car kind of gets moving around up in the RPMs, the AC, does get better. And, I've had many warm days, and this car has kept me cool. So the AC in this for a 4-cylinder, especially a small 4-cylinder, is good too. That's something that you don't hear a whole lot about in reviews. But yeah, it does, on a hot day, it does struggle to keep up. But once you get moving and, you're blowing it on high, you can then turn it down, and you got, nice cool air. So that is my overview or review of the 2015 Fiat 500 Abarth. I really do enjoy this car, not just because I own it, but because it is just a nice car. It gets you around, it does well. It gets me average about 32 to 34 miles for my commute, which is not too bad. If the tank was a little bit bigger, it'd be a little bit better. It only has a 10-gallon tank, so you can get about probably a little over 400 miles on a trip, provided you are not, jumping into the throttle a lot, which is very hard. This car really likes to be driven, really likes turns. It handles supremely well. I've owned a Mazda Miata, and that car, of course, as we all know, is a icon when it comes to, your sporty and driving capabilities. This car feels right along there. I'm not going to say it's right there, but it's right along those lines of a Miata with a capable driver. Obviously, it is a very fun car to drive. I hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, this is my first video doing a review, so please, you know, give it some time for me to work out the formula. But yeah, I love this car. I think it was money well spent. If you want to know how much I spent, about I got it for 11, and then out the door it was probably just under 12 or so. Well, probably about 12 and a half. So in 2 years that this car was out, so in the 2 years that this car had just come out, I was able to pick it up for almost half of what it was brand new. So that is a good steal. And I think anybody wanting a fun little car that doesn't want to spend a whole lot of money really needs to look at these. These are very fun. And as far as a overall score on 1 to 10, I would give this a solid 6.5, just because it is super fun to drive. It's very fun. It does have some capabilities as far as cargo goes. Like I said, I've taken it on a couple trips with a couple of animals, and of course my clothes, and of course the stuff, you know, my clothes and stuff. And I haven't had any need for any more room. It does swallow up some big packages, as I found out in the last few days. But again, you know, if you're looking for something utility, you obviously want to look elsewhere, because this car is not for that. This car is meant for having fun. It's more of a city car, obviously, and it's just an overall good buy, I think. You know, liability, I have not had any issues with it, and I haven't heard too much issues out of other owners looking on the forums. So yeah, that's my review. And like I said, if you have a car you want me to review, I don't care what it is. It can be from a Pinto to a Lamborghini. Please let me know. You can contact me at bushy343@yahoo.com. And I look forward to hearing from you if you do have a car you'd like me to review in the Charlotte area currently. And so yeah, that's where I'll wrap it up. This car, just overall, I think is a nice car for the bang for the buck, funness, and being able just to be a good commuter. You know, I mean, there's not too much more I need out of a vehicle. A little bit more utility would be nice, but again, I did not go into this thinking, you know, I'm going to be going to IKEA and Lowe's Home Improvements and getting stuff. So, you know, if you know what you're getting into and you need a small car, you want a small car, I would definitely take a look at this. And until the next video, guys, take care. Peace.